Join me today as I turn a stick of wood into an elegant hair stick that's just perfect for adding some functional beauty to your lady's hairstyle. In this tutorial, I'll guide you through selecting the wood, adding the finishing details, and all the way to the finish. Whether you're new to wood turning or whether you're an experienced wood turner looking for a new creative process, in this tutorial I'll guide you through it. I think you can use most any kind of fine-grained hardwood that you can get a really smooth, slick finish on. Like I mentioned, most any hardwood will work. These lighter ones are out of holly. These are about 7 to 7 3/8 inches long. They're no more than 5/8 at the thickest part. Down here in the shaft, they're somewhere about 3/8 to 3/16, tapering down to 1/4 or just slightly below 1/4 of an inch. Don't make the point too sharp where it'll stick in the head when they're poking it through, but sharp enough where it'll guide through the hair easily. I found this piece of scrap. I don't know whether it's Ipe or Masa Randuba. It's some type of very hard exotic wood. So I'm going to cut a strip out. So the blank I'm using is between 7 and 8 inches long. My finished product I want to be about 7 inches, and I need to leave a little bit of room on each end for parting off or chucking. Now, one of the challenges, you can do this between centers, but if you do, you might be a little more challenged if you're using your drive center 4-prong that comes with a lathe, because it's going to be bigger than this 3/4 inch, and it kind of makes me nervous cutting in this direction like in that situation. You could use a smaller drive like a 5/8 inch step center, but they also come in even smaller sizes like this 3/8 inch. But I prefer on a project like this to actually mount it in a chuck. It just seems to be easier to turn. It gives a little more stability when you're doing a long thin spindle, so that's what we're going to use. Use any number. You can use pin jaws, any number of chucks. We're going to stick it down in there about 3/4 of an inch, and that'll give it a fair amount of stability. But before we tighten up, I didn't mark centers on this like I probably should have, but I can guesstimate it pretty close. And there we go. Now we can tighten this up. This is a pretty simple project, so I'm probably not going to show you a whole lot about wood turning, but mostly inspiration. And I got inspired by this project at a recent craft show I went to, and I had a couple of these shawl pins, which I thought were very nice, but I don't know anybody uses shawl, and apparently it's not a real common thing anymore because nobody much asked about them, but I do like the design. I did have a couple of ladies ask me about hairpins, so that kind of inspired me to do a hairpin. And I've got a granddaughter with long hair. It's coming over this afternoon. I thought, you know, I'd check it out on her. So this is the design I'm going to use on the end, but let's take it down round first. Now I've got it round, I want to think about the decoration I'm going to have on the end, which is similar to that, so, oh well. So I'm going to mark that. This is going to be where it's going to be parted off. So let's get it round up to that area. That's more of a marking cut. I don't want to take too much away. And then I'm going to mark the sphere, which is going to be this diameter. I'm going to do it this way, just kind of make a little V cut there. And then the next feature, it's going to come down to about there. So now, and I may have to get in here with a spindle gouge. But meanwhile, I'll take it down a little bit more. I can reach under here, brace it with my finger a little bit to stop some of the chatter if I get any. May have to reach around this side to provide a little support. Not pressing hard, just enough to counterbalance this. Cutting in the lower third of the skew. Okay, I got the tool rest just a little bit closer, not much because I'm limited getting in here, so let's go back at it and get it a little bit thinner. So I was doing research with this. I found a video by April Wilkinson that she made one without using a lathe. But the biggest takeaway I got out of hers is she said she really likes a sharp point, so don't make it too dull. So you want to easily pierce that bundle of hair. We can finish some of this shaping on the sander, but I want to get as much done as possible here. I want to sand this before I go too much further there. You always want to avoid sanding dust and collect it at the source. But if you're using exotic woods, you want to be especially careful because frequently they contain substances that are really, really tough on your body, your lungs and your sinuses. And go with the grain, get rid of those radial scratches, and then progressively go through the finer grits. Slow the speed down a little bit from what you're turning to about a third. Alright, let's work on some detail here. First we're going to turn a sphere. Get the speed up back from sanding to a little faster. So, turning a bead, anchor the tool, lift the handle till it cuts, lift, rotate, and swing the handle around. Let's get a little more clearance here. Alright, one more pass here. And now let's get the first part of the bead. It can look like a pumpkin, that's alright. Doesn't have to be a perfect bead. And now we're going to bring this cut in like this and kind of a slight cove into that face. And now I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup on that with a skew just to get that really tight, crisp V at the bottom. There we go. We go back to 3/8 inch spindle gouge from, and I want to bring this back just a little bit actually. And now we're going to, from that edge, we're going to really cove in here. Light cuts. Alright, I think I can get in there with a skew, get that a little more refined. Okay, time to finish sanding the whole thing. Let's slow the speed down again a little bit while we do that sanding on this part. Sand through the grits. I'm going to sand up to 400. You could go higher, but I'm going to wind up using abrasive paste, which in effect almost triples the last grit. Be very careful not to get get your fingers in there too close to the chuck while you're sanding or cutting. And I've got sanding lubricant on here to keep the dust slurry, create a dust slurry and minimize the fine dust I might otherwise be breathing in with the grain. And I'm almost tempted to put a little texturing here on the end. Okay, I looked at the texturing tools that I had to see what options I could get for getting into this tight space, and a spiraling tool won't fit. This DIY decorating elf style tool may work, but it's not going to do a whole lot but leave little dots. I think the texturing tool with a texturing wheel, I can get a little bit of broadband and then maybe put a little bitty V-groove on each side of it. So let's see. I want to keep the speed to this down to about 450 maybe. Alright, so we're going to come in trying to get perpendicular to the wood without getting tangled in the chuck. Well, it's not turning. That didn't work. I'm not getting enough surface on there. So now I have a little ring to deal with, and I'm just going to make a couple of concentric V-grooves using this point tool. Get the speed up a little bit for this. Let's see if I can get you a better view. Come in perpendicular. If I can get one more in there. Yes, okay. That's an improvement, I think. Now I'm going to use my DIY sanding lubricant, similar to Yorkshire grit type of thing. Mineral oil and beeswax. I got a video on that. Like I say, it in effect triples the last grit you use, so this is going to be just as smooth and polished as it can be. You quit when you don't see any more on your paper towel. Fold it inside out to a clean area. Alright, let's see if I can work away a little bit more here toward the end. This is getting too thin. If I part off, I'm afraid I'm going to have some whip. The chuck's not going to be able to deal with it. So I'll cut this off the lathe with a flush cut saw. This is the end I want to deal with to minimize the sanding effort. Let's make a deeper V cut. And I can sand the end of that. So let's use a flush cut saw. Turn the lathe off. And just do it this way. There we go. Saw off this tip. Alright, and I'll sand that on the lathe. Alright, let's do a little touch-up sanding. You can do this on the drill press. I find it easier to do on the lathe. I've got better dust collection here on the lathe. So we'll just go through the grits as we kind of refine that tip a little bit. And a little bit on the tip here. Around a little bit. And now we'll go through finer grits. And with the grain. This is such a tight grained wood, I'm not going to put any finish on it. I'm just going to finish it up with some microcrystal and wax. Okay, some of you remember my granddaughter Shop Fairy as she demonstrates using the hair stick or hairpin. Okay. And there we are. All right, so reminds me of a joke or a funny story. I was at a men's group meeting at church, and one of the fellows there, he had a box of books, and he got ready to open the box, and he didn't have a pocket knife. He says, "Well, what I really need is a pocket knife." And 3 guys whipped out a pocket knife. He's from New York, and he says, "Why is it that all you Southern boys," it goes for us guys even over 60 if you're a Southern boy, "how come all you Southern boys always carry a pocket knife?" And then someone commented, "Well, Bill, now that you live down here and you're retired and not catching an airplane, I don't understand why you're not carrying one." So here's what it looks like. Basically, it's a shotgun system. And they come in. Doesn't look like it comes with any instructions. Got a couple of wrenches to tighten it up. Although I read one review that talked about with this knurled nut that actually in many instances you can. You guys know how much I love to teach, or I wouldn't be making these videos. So I do teach lessons in my shop. If you live in the Atlanta area, you got relatives in the Atlanta area, or you're just traveling through, check it out. Details on my webpage.